Welcome to the official Bitcoin meets Bits and Pretzels Side Event. I think today was a great day for Bitcoin in, I would say, mainstream conferences, as Bits and Pretzels is known for a startup conference, not a Bitcoin conference, and with Jack there was today the first time a speaker representing Bitcoin or a Bitcoin-focused company. And I think that was great. I really loved it, the keynote and the talk with Mark Friedrich after that. And I'm really happy that you came all the way to Munich. I think it was probably the first time for you here in Munich. And yeah, I just want to welcome you, everyone here. Thank you for coming. On Thursday, we found the German Bitcoin Association, Bitcoin Bundesverband, in the German Parliament.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we have circa 70 companies as founding members, which is huge. It's not just Germany, it's Europe actually. And a lot of those companies are actually members, most of them. So you will hear about them in like five minutes. I just wanted to say thank you to Holger for this awesome location. It's really great. And of course for Jack for being here. And all of those Bitcoin companies, which you can see tomorrow at Bits and Pretzels actually. So they have a stand and they will tell you everything about their companies. And yeah, so thank you for being here. Now over to Holger, and then we will go directly into the panel. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm Holger, I'm your host today. This is my office. I have the great pleasure to be able to work here every day. This is an abandoned power plant, and so it's also a symbol for Bitcoin because it used to do a lot of proof of work because it converted coal and oil into energy for quite a few decades, and it had been abandoned a couple of years ago and had been beautifully renovated, and we took it. I've been a Bitcoiner for quite a long time, since 2016. I've had many great talks actually in this room. Saifedan was here in 2018. Rachel was here quite a few times with TerraHash. We had many meetups. We had a lot of women education in Bitcoin. A lot of women I see here in the audience have already been for Femmes events. So that's so important actually to connect and to come here together. I'm totally happy that I'm able to offer this space for you tonight, and I hope many new connections and actually good vibes are here. I'm a big admirer of Jack. I'm also a bit admirer of Jack's dad, which I of course never met, but I know from your stories that he was actually the one who introduced you to Bitcoin and who came first. And I mean, I have no idea how old your dad is, but probably he and me are kind of in the same decade actually. And I think it's quite interesting that many Gen X people like I am come into Bitcoin, because for them, like for me, it's actually quite hard because you have to overcome your complete belief system that had made you successful for so many decades. I have an MBA in business from Munich University. I had to completely unlearn 8 years of university education about money before I was able to understand Bitcoin. I was introduced to Bitcoin the first time 2011. A colleague told me on our way to Frankfurt on the morning train 6:13 from München passing to Frankfurt. And he was telling me his sons were actually mining Bitcoin on PCs in their basements, and there was some form of new internet money. And I said, that's the stupidest idea I ever heard in my life. What a crap. And that was my ignorance. And It took me 3 more years, 2014, I actually crossed Bitcoin's way again, because then we founded a blockchain department at MAIBORNWOLFF, because we assumed that blockchain would be a thing, which it wasn't, and as we closed it in 2018 again. And then Mt. Gox collapsed, and I said, well, I knew it was crap, and so I didn't see it. And it took me until 2016 until I really understood the potential. And I think sometimes people say Bitcoin is an IQ test. I don't think that's correct. I think it's an ignorance test. It's a test on how able are you to overcome your belief system, your own ignorance, and that's actually the point where you enter Bitcoin. I have a good friend and colleague who studied in Sweden in 2013, and he participated in a study at the university, and he spent like half a day for that study, and all participants of that study got 1 Bitcoin as reward, which was $20 back then, and they got it as a paper wallet, so there was like an administrator from the campus, from the university, and they printed out a paper wallet with 1 Bitcoin for everybody. And he just put it on the fridge with a magnet on actually his condo, and then he forgot about it, and he left it, and he forgot it, and it was gone. And he didn't realize until 2020, about the time Michael Saylor got back into Bitcoin, what he actually had. And then he overcame his own mental afflictions of having lost 1 Bitcoin and started to save all of his money that he could. He really lived like an empty closet lifestyle, like you propagated. And actually he managed over the course of almost 4 years to save him back actually to 1 Bitcoin. And that's really conviction. I mean, you had one on your fridge, you lose it, and you suddenly realize how hard it is to save for 3.5 years everything you have. And that's conquering your mental afflictions, and that's the journey every Bitcoiner has to go. You have to go, Jack had to go, I had to go. And I'm totally glad Jack is such a great ambassador of Bitcoin. Thank you for being here. Jack, the stage is yours. Thank you.
No, I need that.
All right, what's going on, guys? How are you? Yeah? Good to see you. I think I got a little sick traveling, so if my voice goes in and out, you just have to bear with me. Okay, I can't kiss any of you tonight, I don't think. It's not. But I just want to thank all you guys for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's my first time in Munich. Bitcoin being global is just such a special thing. And it's obvious when you think of a digital currency that's distributed, but actually going to El Salvador, being in Ghana, being here is just always so special, and being able to connect with other people on the same network. So it's an honor. How you guys treat me and my company is just don't take it for granted. It really means a lot. A lot of the work that I've done in my career has not been easy, and just would not be able to do it without the support that you guys and the rest of the community give me and Strike. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm technically German. Did you know that? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've been to Berlin, first time in Munich. Oktoberfest seems crazy. I don't know if I could ever survive anything like that. Thank God I'm sick. Yeah, everything happens for a reason. But cool. I guess real quick, they wanted me to do a quick introduction for those that don't know me. My name's Jack. I'm the founder, and I play the CEO role at a company called Strike. But I founded that business where, we've had a product now for almost 4 years, so it's fairly young. I've been in Bitcoin for 11 years, and I truly believe that if we can fix the money, we can solve a lot of the world's hardest problems. And so my life purpose is to do everything I can to make Bitcoin successful, because I think it can achieve that. Cool. I think, let's have some panel,
Guys, how old-fashioned I am because I have to have it written on a piece of paper.
Oh, I saw that. I was like, is that for me?
Test here.
We're all there. And sound is working everywhere that it needs to be working.
Test.
Test.
Yo.
Test. Test. You just do a test.
Works.
The rest of us share.
Okay, very good. Good evening. Hi. My name is Rachel. I wear many hats in the Bitcoin world. I work for TerraHash. We do Bitcoin mining in Germany and Europe. I'm on the board of the European Bitcoin Energy Association, trying to educate an understanding for what Bitcoin mining is, why it's important for the energy infrastructure of Europe. I'm co-founder of Femmes, which is my passion to try and get more women into Bitcoin. But my biggest role in life is I'm the mum of 4 children, and the reason I'm sitting here today is I'm going to be the coolest mum because I'm sitting next to Jack Mallers and I just want brownie points. So yeah, thank you very much for having me here. So we've got a whole team here, and what they all have in common is that they are all founders or working in Bitcoin companies in the German-speaking space. So I think what we will do is, just so that everybody knows who's sitting here, you've each got a minute, because it's very hard to do a panel when there's this many people and we're not, to get into deep conversations. You've got a minute to describe your product and service in layman terms, so that if there's somebody sitting in the audience who's not a Bitcoiner, and why does society need your product or your service? Let's start with Jonas.
Okay, happy to start. Hi, I'm Jonas. I'm representing Stokr. So what Stokr does is trying to build the next generation of capital markets by directly connecting the issuers of financial products such as bonds, notes, or investment funds directly with the end investor. We do this by effectively hosting an investment platform where those two parties meet and transact, and the tech infrastructure we use is built on Bitcoin. So the monetary network we're all talking about and we're all excited about, we're using a different network that builds on top to add some extra functionality that enables us to build those financial products. With those financial products, we achieve, with a proven track record, to certain kind of investors, mainly family offices, high net worth individuals, to get a different exposure to Bitcoin products with a different profile of risk and returns. And that's a valuable thing because, as you probably know, or as some know, Bitcoin is quite volatile and not every entity wants to have this kind of volatility in their financial portfolios.
Does everyone understand what they do?
Hi, I'm Max from 21 Energy, and we develop, build and sell Bitcoin heaters. Bitcoin heaters are Bitcoin miners which are super silent. You can put into your living room and heat your home at the same time and mine Bitcoin. If you put 1 kilowatt hour into a Bitcoin miner, it gets converted with 100% efficiency into heat with no losses, but you have the additional created value, which is the Bitcoin hash rate, which protects the Bitcoin network. And in most cases, because you get additional cash flow through the Bitcoin mining, it's the cheapest and also most sustainable heating option. And it works great with the energy transition. You can connect your Bitcoin heater to variable electric tariffs and stuff like that, and also stabilize the grid at the same time. Or you can monetize surplus energy in the summer if you have solar on the roof and get faster returns on your solar.
Daniel starts talking about his company. What I love about Daniel the most is he founded 21. I don't know if you've heard of 21. So it's this organization in the German-speaking world which has spread Bitcoin at a grassroots level. Kiki, yeah, so he was part of it. And then this week, he's just been elected to the board of the Bundesbitcoin Verband. So you've gone from your grassroots movement to the world of politics.
Exactly, yeah, this is exactly the reason why we did it, yeah. No, the idea is that we move from staying in a bubble to go out of the bubble, and therefore we need to become professional. And overcome this kind of, we all love to be in the community, right? But we need to overcome this and reach out of the community, and therefore we need to have a more professional stance in the general way of how people perceive Bitcoiners and Bitcoin companies and so on. I think we have a professional growth market here, and people need to understand that we are in a growth market here, and that there are a lot of companies currently popping up and more are coming, and the association is a good way how these companies can influence the politics and de-risk their companies.
Cool.
That's the idea behind it. Okay, so now I start. Okay, so I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you all. My startup is called Tidebinder, and we are basically doing global transactions with digital cash, meaning we're basically offering a payment API for businesses to send digital cash, in this case Bitcoin of course, all over the world, and still being self-custody. So it's basically a fully managed cloud solution for having a self-custody wallet for businesses with an API to easily connect it to all your business systems without the need of understanding the Lightning Network, without the need of dealing with liquidity or any other parts of the Lightning Network. So you don't need to have an expert, you can just integrate Lightning into your systems without understanding it.
Cool. You go first. Yeah.
We meet again.
What do you do?
Hey, my name's Jack. I'm Jack. I founded Strike. Strike is Bitcoin financial services. So our biggest product, we sell a lot of Bitcoin to people all over the world in over 100 markets. But we sell our customers financial services on top of Bitcoin. So buy, sell, custody, send, receive. We're excited to get into things like custody services, lending services, credit services, and we think Bitcoin will become a more important financial role in more people's lives, and they'll need financial services to make better use of the best money. So that's what we do.
And how is the European market working? We all got very excited when we could finally download Strike. How's it going?
It's great. Do you know our biggest market within Europe? Can you guess?
It's going to be Germany.
Yeah, and it's not close. U.S. is our biggest market, and second by far is Germany.
Yeah.
It's great. Obviously, anything new, you're going to iterate and change things and learn a lot, and so we're still going through that process. And so if you guys have any feedback for me, I work directly on the products, so I'd love to hear from you. But I couldn't be more excited to be here. I loved all your tweets over the years of like the One Europe. I know some of you motherfuckers in the crowd are sending me those tweets. I just couldn't be happier to be here, and it's been phenomenal.
Because I think that's what people don't understand about the German-speaking world. We've got the politicians on the one hand with all their regulations, where it looks like we're not doing a great job. But if you look behind the surface, there are more nodes running in Germany than anywhere else, and there's such an active community, and there's so much going on. So it's really nice to have this opportunity to bring out into the world, hey, we're not just selling our Bitcoin.
No, I mean, you guys are, talk about looking like we're doing a bad job. What about the United States with this presidential election? I mean, we don't look good either. So, no judgment zone. Yeah, I mean, I could have added this in my intro of why I'm excited to be here, but to me, I've traveled a lot of places around the world to talk about Bitcoin, and the culture and the energy in Germany is very profound. I think you guys tell me, because you're German and I'm not. Well, I technically am, but not more than you.
Can you explain that? Where's your technical German coming from?
On my dad's side of the family, I don't know, you could probably look it up too. Type Jack Mallers into like the family history chart. Pop, Irish, German, Romanian, who knows? Mahash Posh. But no, my point is, you guys tell me, but I think it comes from your history and culture. I mean, you've lived through hyperinflation, you've lived through corrupt government, and so there's a really profound sense of independence. A little bit of, am I allowed to curse? A little bit,
Go on then.
a little bit of F the man, a little bit of hard money principles embedded, and so also practically speaking, Bitcoin is a wealth transfer. You know, as much as we like to talk about bottoms-up movement and emerging markets in the global south, the reality is a wealth transfer has to come from where the wealth exists today. And Germany is very wealthy. There's a lot of GDP here. There's a lot of innovation here. So I think the combination of that, it's a very ripe market where there's a lot of capital, there's a lot of smart people, there's a lot of innovation, and there's also a lot of cypherpunk attitude that comes from the history that you guys have had to live through. So,
and it's a nation of engineers. And I think when it comes, particularly when it comes to Bitcoin mining, you know, where we're going to have to be so much more technical than the rest of the world to be able to mine it efficiently, you're going to get the best solutions coming out of here.
totally.
Michael, your minute.
Yeah, I'm one of many Michaels at Opago. And what we do is we help merchants, physical retailers, stores, restaurants to accept Bitcoin. And a little bit like Daniel said, we don't want people to have to know everything about the Lightning Network to use it. And in our case, we want to make it easy that also the employees that have to actually take the payment, that they don't have to know anything about Lightning. They just do the normal stuff and just the Lightning payment goes through. For this, we have the API for the larger customers. At the moment, we're talking to several very interesting customers, a large zoo, some soccer clubs, but already we have almost 200 smaller merchants, and these are really the ones that need Lightning the most because they realize how good it is. That it's really digital cash. So they like cash, you just have the money, but you don't have the hassle of needing the secured money trucks to transport it in and out, pay a lot of money for the cash. So it's actually best of both worlds. So best of the old hard physical cash and digital.
Yeah, my name is Bastian. I'm co-founder of Lipa. Lipa is basically believes that Bitcoin is the next level of digital cash. So what we do basically is we not only help people to get into the Bitcoin ecosystem very well, but also we support and understand how Bitcoin can be built up in a circular economy. So this is why we bring up like services like a PNS or having our own Lightning self-custodian wallet, which we really want to have like Bitcoin throughout everyone in his pocket. So everybody should have like his own Swiss banking in his pocket. So this is why we believe Bitcoin should be the next level.
And if anyone was at the Innsbruck conference the first two times, Lipa was the brains behind it. You could pay everything with Bitcoin and there wasn't a single glitch, I think. Everything worked perfectly, so top product.
Yeah, this year we were again like on the blockchain event. I don't know if somebody was there. We were again like this the second time in a row we were a payment processor there, and with more than 11.5 million satoshis spent back and forth just in one day. That was quite a tremendous thing. I mean, it was just for one day. It was the biggest amount of Bitcoin we sent back and forth.
Very cool. Last but not least, Jörg.
Hi, I'm Jörg. I co-founded Lombardor. We will soon offer Bitcoin-backed Lombard loans, which is like a 300-year-old thing. You can do it typically with your stock portfolio or other liquid financial assets. What it does to society, first of all, there's already 20 million Bitcoiners in Europe or more. There you see huge demand from Bitcoiners that they don't have to sell their Bitcoin, but if they need short-term liquidity, that they can borrow against it or lend against it. So that's doing a service for Bitcoiners, which are part of society, and for the others who are not yet Bitcoiners, it probably will help them to understand that the HODL mindset, that Bitcoin is not just a speculative thing where you have to get in early and cash out to make use of it in the real world, but that you can really hold on to it, because usually I get the question, what do you do with it? You just HODL, you don't spend it. What do you do with it? And probably a service like Lombardor will help people understand that it's a real thing, it's a good thing to hold.
And I think that's what a lot of Bitcoiners are waiting for.
Yeah, and
We're saving all our purchases until we can...
And one more thing, now for Bitcoiners, not for layman terms, we will never do rehypothecation. It will be your home jurisdiction, so all the contracts will be in German and for German courts, so you don't have eventually go to the US or whatever to get your claims or back to your Bitcoin. And we will have an AI-based model that helps you with selecting the right LTV for your loan, so you don't risk collateral liquidation. Because you could do it manually, but some people need help, and AI is a good thing to do that. And we have insolvency protection, so that in case of our company or another customer fucking up, that your collateral is not at risk of mistake. So we want to do it properly. We are Bitcoiners, and we want to do it for Bitcoiners in the best way you can do it. Yeah.
And is it too early for you to be able to give us any kind of indication about what interest rates we're going to have to pay?
So it won't be cheap in the beginning, but we try to be a few % cheaper than the existing competition. So it will be in the range of 13-14%, but we are confident that once we establish that and show to the banks that this is very low risk, that over the next 2 years we get the interest rates down to what you get for your stock portfolio, for instance. Yeah. So it's just now in the beginning, since we're the first year, it will be a bit more expensive, but we already have done quite a lot of book building, so we see huge interest for the current interest rate, so we can get started soon.
I think this is really exciting because you can really see how the ecosystem is taking off with all these companies springing up all over the place. But it's not easy. I also work for a bit. It's not easy being a Bitcoin company. And I think it's particularly not easy being a Bitcoin company in Europe who is involved in the money market. I think perhaps if you're involved in the energy market, it's a bit easier because the Europeans understand and will accept that they have a problem with energy and we need a solution. But they don't want to accept, or they don't see that we have a problem with the money. So you're going to have to really fight against, getting people to understand first off. So that would lead me to my next question. If we've kind of reached this point, I think that the narrative is definitely changing on Bitcoin. I can feel it, particularly in the mining world, that it's no longer the dirty thing. We're finding we're getting large energy companies coming, the press is coming, the story's changing. But what would be the main sticking points we've got at the moment to bring Bitcoin to the broader masses or to bring the broader masses to Bitcoin? And I'll start with you, Jörg, because you were the last to go.
Okay, so I think the underlying question or the problem I sometimes struggle with when we talk about the masses is this question a bit pushy, because we pride ourselves that Bitcoin is a peaceful revolution, it's optional, everybody gets the price he deserves. On the other hand, we try to, there will be hyper-Bitcoinization, and it always seems to others, or many others, like we're pushing our values and ideals hard on them. And why can't we just stay in our rabbit hole and just be happy and wait for people to come? And my answer to that is why we still want to bring Bitcoin out of the rabbit hole to the other side, and probably very quick, is when I look outside of the bubble in the last years, I see a growing mediocrity in the outside world. Even maybe, if you don't know it, it's Mittelmäßigkeit, especially in leadership. And there's a risk of being in an early stage of mediocrity, which is in German, die Herrschaft der Mittelmäßigkeit. And I don't see that in the Bitcoin space, so we probably have the right consensus that many people here go the extra mile, think harder, aspire to be better, and don't be satisfied with mediocre situation. And it doesn't sound so dangerous, but the danger, and history has shown that, is that mediocrity can lead to envy and greed in the masses and not trigger them to think about themselves. So at some point, those anger could be turned toward the healthy, sound, prosperous neighbors, which would then be probably the Bitcoiners, and then you're facing a big mob who's very angry. So it should be in our interest to counter that, and Bitcoin is, for me, that cure, so to say. to bring that to the outside world, and that's why we probably push. And it's not like we really have certain enemies, like James Bond-like villains. I mean, I could name a few which are in the memes, but the problem with mediocrity is like it's like this bodiless, malevolent force, you know, from like Lord of the Rings or Michael Ender's Never-Ending Story, where it's called The Nothing, or in Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, it's called mediocrity, and I think that's important, and probably I can help with Lombardor, that the outside world in a rational way sees Bitcoin from a bit different perspective, and then starts becoming Bitcoins, not through the ideals we try to push on them, but they see, oh, it's a useful tool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because we see that with our families. The more you push, the more they don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, I was just thinking about, because Jörg and I are also running a network for businesses, specifically for corporates and Bitcoiners working in corporates, to help them to connect with each other on a cross-company level, on a cross-corporate level, better say. And I'm also happy to see that some of the guys here who actually built a huge community already in their companies. So please talk to the guys here. I don't know if they want to say their name, but you will probably in conversations figure out who it is. And please get inspired and build your community in your working environment, because you spend so much time during work, you have a lot of trust relationships to colleagues, and this is a good spot where you can talk to people, but in a way, like Jörg said, not push them too much, but like give them here and there some hints and some ideas, and they will come back to you. And everybody who at least told me that they started to build communities and started to orange pill at their work, always had good experience. There was no one who was talking about any bad experience, so I can definitely recommend for everyone to get Bitcoin out of the bubble, talk to your colleagues, and start a Bitcoin community in your company you're working for.
Yeah, very good point. I think education is a big part, and as you founded the Bitcoin Association in the Bundestag, I think you're doing a good job to bringing this also into political discussion and to showing there's a critical mass behind this. This is not just some tech geeks playing around with something, even if Donald Trump says we're playing around with Bitcoin. So there's really companies building on it, and they're creating value. It's not just some wishful thinking, we can create something in the next 15 years, but there's some value. And we also see this development mainly from the US. I think Jack is the expert on that front, that financial institutions, they're coming, and we see Bitcoin moving from a small $1 trillion market cap asset to extending, eventually taking over gold. So we will see more and more people coming, and that's also what we see at Stokr, that those financial institutions, they will push it to the mainstream, because for many people it's not so easy. There are great products, and we have some companies here present that build great products, but some people are maybe fearful, and they want some institutional stamp on Bitcoin saying, okay, yeah, this is a legitimate asset class, you can allocate maybe 1% of your financial portfolio to this. And I think that's happening right now. We see much more favorable regulation in the US with banks being able to custody. There are some stuff happening right now. I think this will lead to even more adoption. If you have the sales force of BlackRock and etc. behind Bitcoin, of course they're trying to make some money, but we're profiting from it. So Bitcoin is an incentive program, and everyone working on it and everyone investing in it eventually profits from it. So maybe we just have to be a bit more patient and wait for game theory to play out.
I think this is great that you're a Bitcoin panel and we're screaming for regulation. I mean, we look over to America. You have your Satoshi Action Fund, you have your Texas blockchain, and they're doing a great job. Do you think that they are really having an impact on it moving ahead faster?
Yeah, of course. I mean, helping out is better than not helping out, always. But I think that you need Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs you, period. I need Bitcoin far more than Bitcoin needs me. And that applies to every individual, company, government. And so I think the US government needs Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs the US government. The reality of the United States is we have the world reserve currency, which means we don't actually have any substantive wealth. All of our wealth is in the form of debt. It's the design of the system. And so, people often ask, well, you were part of the first country adopting Bitcoin, who's going to be second? And my prediction was always potentially the United States. Because, what was unique about El Salvador is it didn't have its own currency. It lost its own currency in a civil war. And so it wasn't foregoing the ability to print money. In many ways, it made a lot of sense that they were first because they were using another country's currency. Now, who's the first country that gets to print their own currency? Probably the one that's in the most debt, right? Because what you need to back that debt somehow. You need to give confidence in the future promises that you're making. And so I think that the United States needs Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs the United States, and I think that's what you're seeing. So everyone's helpful, but I think that's it at the end of the day. They're going through the same experience I think we all do.
Who's going to be the next country?
I think the U.S. now, it depends on what you call adoption, right? Like some people require the legal tender piece. Maybe it's just owning some as a government. But I think the United States will end up making a big push. I mean, I spent some time with Lummis, Senator Lummis, and worked on the bill with her, and I really think it may take some time, and we're in the middle of an election, but I do think there's a lot of progress on that standpoint, and left or right or blue or red or whatever, I don't think it actually matters. I think the country's realizing that, and I can go into detail, but I think that the United States is getting closer.
How are we doing in Germany? How close are we getting in Germany? Who's got the closest connection at the moment? I mean, what's your strategy going to be with the Bitcoin
Bundes Association? We need to figure it out, right? So right now it's just founded. We need to get to operation modus, and from then on we will figure it out. But quick. Yeah. Okay. So actually, I think one important part is what I want to do there, and this is what I can talk about. Others in the association have other plans, what they want to do, a lot of education and so on. For me, the most important part is to build communities within the parties, so that every party has a Bitcoin community, an orange block in the party, where everybody in the party knows, okay, there's a question about Bitcoin, or I don't know, something comes up with Bitcoin. Oh, we have an orange block here, so we can ask them, right? And then the association should help to connect them beyond the parties, above the parties, right? So, so that they are not in their party circle, but can exchange ideas also with the other orange blocks in other parties.
Helping Rachel to coming back to the question. So, what do you? He was talking about mediocrity. I think we need to take off the fear about Bitcoin, the fear of self-custody, the fear of self-sovereignty, so that people understand that it's actually a good thing to be decentralized, to understand that decentralization is the best thing which could happen to us, in terms of that you are in charge of your own keys always, that you are, and then there are companies helping you with actually storing those keys securely, and actually never ever having access to those keys. We have a lot of cryptography in the world. People are way forward in terms of decrypting and encrypting information, that we can actually help the normal person with good UI, with understandable services, that they actually can overcome the fear that they are now in charge. They can call no one for getting back their Bitcoin if they lost it, if they gave out their 12 words or whatever. So I think it's a good thing to overcome mediocrity, but also we have to, who else than we are in charge of bringing those peace to those minds, to actually jump on this ship, see that it's the better thing, and then help them with whatever services, anti-theft, anti-fraud, and so on. We know we are the technical people. We know how to do this, and we can then acquire help for making it useful and making it shiny in the front end.
Max?
We have two very large customer segments, and the one are the Bitcoiners. They get Bitcoin heaters, of course, and then we have the guys with solar on the roof. And the thing is, often they buy Bitcoin miners because they don't get more money by providing the electricity to the grid. They get less and less and less, and they see Bitcoin mining as the solution to their problem. And I think that's the most important thing. The fiat world creates so many problems, and as long as we create solutions on the Bitcoin layer, the masses will come completely automatically. Like, I think the best example is my grandma. She thinks she has never used the internet, but once a month she sends a WhatsApp picture, and she doesn't know that she uses the internet. And I think it will be like that in 10 years with Bitcoin. You make a payment and you don't know that in the back end there was Bitcoin used. And yeah, I think it will be the same with the electricity grid. There will be Bitcoin mining containers stabilizing the grid when there is too much renewable energy in the grid. And we should only focus on building solutions and educate, because the fiat world creates enough problems for all, and they will come our way anyway.
Have you got anything to add, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. Bitcoin, this is also why Czech says we need Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs us. There are so many problems that Bitcoin and Lightning can solve, actually two very large 5,000-year-old problems. So it will win, but still somebody has to build the solution. It has to happen, even if it's already inevitable. And I think really the Trojan horse to Bitcoin adoption is Lightning. Might be biased, I co-founded a Lightning
Definitely
company.
biased.
But I mean, even if you don't realize you're using Bitcoin, Lightning, I think, will front-run Bitcoin adoption while people should still think in other currencies. I can pull out Blink wallets and stable sets that are tethered to $1 to Strike wallet and receive euro instantly, and it's faster, cheaper, and easier than using banks. And I think that's really the way forward. Merchants will realize it's better, cheaper, easier, faster, securer to accept payments via Lightning. Then banks will realize that actually settling in Lightning is much safer and faster and more efficient than the settlement networks they use. And at some point, countries like the US will realize that the only way to stay on top is to use Bitcoin.
I don't disagree with anything that has been said, but I differ in my approach to this one. I like the Bitcoin equals technology plus fiat liquidity. I think that's brilliant. It's, the technology piece is it's superior tech. Technology is disruptive. It improves over time. It solves, problems that people have, and you see growth through that. Fiat liquidity is the expansion of the money supply. It's inflation. It's the debasement of the currency. And both of those drive Bitcoin growth, in my opinion. What we're living through today is the fiat liquidity piece is growing far more than the technology piece. So the definition of inflation, which everyone's going through globally, is that the money supply is growing faster than the growth of the economy, right? They're printing more dollars than technology is producing value year over year. And so what I've seen actually in running Strike is, I don't disagree with you at all, but I think placing the responsibility on Bitcoiners or a business to say it's our job to predict the future and go convince everyone else to use our solution is actually the wrong approach and is incorrect. That's an incredibly heavy responsibility to place. I just don't like that because I don't know if it's possible. If Bitcoin's the solution, it implies everyone has a problem. And so I think the fiat liquidity piece is the piece we're living through. That's the part that's driving most of Bitcoin's growth. People like to say, I'm in it for the tech, I'm not in it for the price. Bullshit, get the hell out of here. The price tells us how much of the world is using Bitcoin as money. And in my opinion, the more they print currency, the more people around the world have a problem with money. And that drives, and so for Strike, and we changed. We went from, I need to predict the future. and I need to convince everyone of the future that I think is going to happen, to we need to just listen to customers. And we just need to be there to help. And I need to travel to the world and be in places like this, and I need to learn. And that actually has made us a way better company, and I feel like we're making way bigger of a difference with that approach. Instead of like, I sat here, I figured out something no one else knows, so it's my job to wake up every day and tell everyone how to live their life. And instead understand, okay, Bitcoin's growth comes from technology and fiat liquidity. The fiat liquidity piece right now is dominant. People are realizing they have monetary problems. And I need to be licensed. I need to have tech that can scale. I need to have products that work. And our biggest product is just selling Bitcoin as much as I love Lightning, right? Lightning's a rounding error if you have access to Strike internal dashboards. So that's my personal opinion. And I think that we'll see a lot of mainstream growth because everyone between probably the people in this room and the United States of America has a money problem, has a fiat liquidity problem.
I think that's very true. When you're talking about male Bitcoiners, you say, I'm not in this for the money, I'm in this for the tech. I can 100% tell you that that is not the case with your female Bitcoiners. And what I think is really interesting is when you look around, most of the women in this room are here through Les Femmes. And if we're not quite the youngest, not always the youngest. I think that the general, the women, they're heading towards pensions, and they have an enormous problem because we know, we're not going to have enough money when we hit our pension age. So women of a certain age have got a problem, and then they're much more inclined to come towards. And for the women, the important thing is not the tech, it's the storytelling as to why do they need it, why do their children need it, and why does society need it?
Yeah, well, I actually think that the idea that you have to be in it for the tech and not for the number to go up, it comes from a very insecure place. I think it comes from a vulnerable place where there's not a willingness to admit that I want the number to go up. And then eventually you grow out of that and you realize like you have every right to want the number to go up. In fact, again, I think the most important KPI, the most important metric for Bitcoin is what's the price. Because money is storing human effort. It's our ability to save and exchange human effort, labor, time, energy. And what the price tells us and the market cap tells us is how much of the world is storing human effort in this money. So it's the most important metric. And I think it just, Bitcoin, we talk about an IQ test, or you preferred a different test. What was the test? Ignorance test. Humility test as well, ego test of, are you willing to not be the main character? Are you willing to join something you can't control? Are you willing to join a system where there are rules with no rulers, where you're not higher or lower than anyone else, and that you're forgiving any ability to exert influence on a system and you're a receiver of it? Are you willing to join something that's bigger than you are and will last longer than you are? And I think people struggle with that philosophical change where they say, I'm not in it for the price. I'm in it for the tech, which is fine. I like the tech too. But it's like, you're in it for the price. I don't know. I was like, sorry. It's money. Like, you're using money. Like, the whole point is to be able to acquire it and exchange it later. Tech is Ethereum, right? So, anyway, I think it just is more of an insecurity.
You can still be super bullish about it and still say, okay, I don't actually need Bitcoin, or I don't actually want Bitcoin to go up. This is, I think, a more important part. I don't want Bitcoin to go up. And I believe these people.
Because sometimes,
because sometimes I also think the same way, because,
why?
Oh my God, because it's becoming so expensive, I can't stack enough.
You laughed after that, though, because it's kind of a joke, I think.
Of course.
Yeah, it's not real. We can make jokes, but
it's short-term thinking, okay, price should stay low, but long-term, of course, it should go up.
Yeah, like money is our time, our energy in an abstracted form. I get repetitive with this stuff, but it's really important. Like, we wake up every day and we do stuff. What are you? You are both the time that you have in this life and the energy in which that time is expressed. That's who each of us are, fundamentally. And what we get in exchange for our time and our energy is this money thing. The way we capture our effort and our labor that we do today, and the way we bring it to tomorrow, is through money. And so the idea that I wouldn't want that to be valuable is self-harm. That's depressive. That's anti-human. And so I don't know if it's like a philosophical or insecure, vulnerable mental health thing that humans don't want to be self-interested and strong and prideful about themselves. Like, love yourself. Love yourself. Want to be valuable. So I don't know. I mean, I've been there as a Bitcoiner as well, where you feel guilty. Like, I don't care as much about the price. And I just, I think it's just not true. So getting more people into Bitcoin, I think the best thing to track is the price. And I think the biggest driver right now is the fiat liquidity piece. It's outgrowing the technology, and there's mathematical evidence of that via inflation, or else we wouldn't be living through inflation.
I think you're absolutely right, but the problems that Rachel mentioned, I think the price of Bitcoin in fiat is just a symptom of what the ECB and the Fed print. And the higher it goes, the more people get left behind that are just struggling so much in the current system that they cannot actually stack sats or can stack little sats, and they unfortunately fall behind further. And that's really why I think it's important that we try and help as many of these people get Bitcoin as soon as possible.
Yeah, I've not disagreed with anything anyone said, but that topic goes back to the fundamental way Satoshi designed the system in the first place, which is how do you fairly distribute a currency for the world? And, I don't know if there's any more fair way of the new wealthy adopting a distributed hard money leaked to the internet before others. There's no fairer way. And so as much as I would love everyone to have equal opportunity and not get beaten over the head by currency debasement from financial authorities, the question then becomes, well, is there a better solution? And unfortunately, it's not the case. And I love the quote that, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. And I truly believe that Bitcoin in many ways is a humility test. And those that can't get over their own ego, unfortunately, have to get less of it. But I do think we owe a lot to Satoshi. One of the reasons Bitcoin is resistant to, ETFs or governments getting into it. I did the keynote today at Bits and Pretzels, and I put together a pie chart. Close to half the gold supply is owned by central banks and government. And only 2% of the Bitcoin supply today, right now, is owned by central banks and government. And the takeaway is Satoshi leaked this money on the internet. Satoshi didn't take it to Wall Street and go public. Satoshi didn't do a documentary on YouTube. Satoshi didn't go on CNBC from an empty closet. Satoshi just leaked. Satoshi just leaked it. Just leaked it. And for that reason, we all have this supply. And I think that's just the fairest way you could do it. As much as I would love for people to understand what we understand, I just don't know if there's any more fair way.
I'm a bit cognizant of time, because I would like to allow the audience also to ask a few questions. Are you bursting to say something, Basti?
I mean, Satoshi made it like the thing that you can actually go out and earn Bitcoin. And I think we always forget this at the moment. So as Opago, also Lipa, makes it very easy for people to actually go out and get paid for their services in Bitcoin. And this is, I think, what we most of the time forget. We always, and I really hate this term, we buy Bitcoin. No, we exchange Bitcoin, it's a currency. And so helping people to actually get Bitcoin for their services, I think it's the best way to distribute Bitcoin even further.
Agree.
Just quickly wanted to add to the statement that many people cannot stack sats. I mean, we're talking mainly about Germans, who are wealthy countries. Although it sounds maybe hard, but check your expenses. Live within your limits, and probably you find something which is not needed in your life, and you can cut out that and stack sats instead. So that's the switch people have to make, because on a hard money standard, that's what you have to do every day. And, yeah.
Yeah, I love there's a quote of like, if you don't like how much money you have, be more valuable. It's like, don't complain to me. What do you want me to do about that? Be more valuable to more people. And I think, again, fundamentally, money is human effort, time, energy, labor. And so, exactly that. If you want to own more things, reduce your expenses or produce more value. Again, it's just like so fair how Satoshi did it. And the diminishing block subsidy, the diminishing block rewards, the supply was issued so fast, so quickly. It does two things. It entices speculation. So obviously, if we were to say, hey, there's going to be plenty of food for everyone whenever you're hungry, okay? You'll go when you're hungry. If we were to say, hey, there's going to be food, only there's going to be like 90% of the food in the next 10 minutes. After that, if you're hungry later, it's all going to be gone. Whether you're kind of hungry or not, you're probably going to go get a plate in case you get hungry. So the early issuance entices speculation, but it also distributes it to the people faster. And so, like, again, this is only fair. If you want more money, be more valuable. If you want more Bitcoin, be more valuable. And if you want more stuff in your life with the income you're generating, then acquire less stuff, consume less.
And that's what ultimately gets you out of the vicious loop of mediocrity. Because you're forced. You have to really think proof of work.
Yep.
And not just take things for granted, like we are degenerating into.
And my biggest hope is that society will start to realise what really is valuable, and that the Satoshis flow to what is really necessary in society. And I know I keep plugging it, but if we are not going to have the next generation, it's absolutely pointless, all of us sitting here and making new products. So this is what we need to be pushing.
Make kids.
Make kids! And Bitcoiners, please make kids. If we want to really get this into the world, we need to have more children.
You're all going to have girlfriends.
So I'd like to open it up to the floor. Just a quick question, Max. Do you want people in the audience to have a microphone, or is it enough if they shout loudly? Yeah. Brigitte, could I ask you to take this microphone, and if is that okay? And if anyone's got a question that you can, thanks a lot. Okay, there's one over here with the guy with the white t-shirt.
So everyone knows MicroStrategy and their huge success regarding their stock price adopting the Bitcoin standard after the last 4 years. So why is it taking so long for other big corporates to do the same thing? I mean, every CFO should look at this and see the price increase and maybe not copy 100% the strategy. Maybe put only 10% of their corporate treasury into Bitcoin. Why is it taking so long that anyone can make or have the same success in the corporate world?
Well, perhaps Holger Wolff would like to answer that one. Yeah, take.
One of the biggest defeats I actually experienced was that I wasn't able to convince my co-founders that Bitcoin is a great idea. Not until today. So I have
literally today.
Literally today. Yeah.
Oh wow!
So
congratulations.
we don't have Bitcoin on the balance sheet yet, and we have it with my founding partner for MAIBORN. We have it in the company we actually own together, and we stack it. But I know firsthand how hard it is actually to convince the management, and my analysis would be. My co-founders and board members, they are basically IT people, and they want to code, and they want to build systems and solutions, and they want the world outside around them to be stable. They want to be able to have trust in the system. They don't want to see that debt crisis we're in. They look away, and they just want to ignore it as long as they can. This is my best guess on why it doesn't work, actually.
That's actually what Saylor told us this year, that try to get a majority stake in a company and bring it on a Bitcoin standard. Maybe that's the next level thinking for Bitcoiners when they reach the point not to fulfill easy dreams, but to think about getting into productive assets where they control the majority and bring those companies on a Bitcoin standard and then fulfill their individual dreams from the revenues those productive assets make. And
yeah,
and that's hard to find in existing company structures. a majority to really pursue a Bitcoin strategy?
Yeah, I think I have two answers. The first is, first of all, Michael is a very good friend of mine. I love him to death. Super successful.
But, and everything before but is a lie.
With that being said, it's very important to understand the situation he was in. MicroStrategy was a dead, failing business. It was a dead cap in the U.S. capital markets. If it tried to go public in the last 5 years and didn't go public 40 years ago, I don't even know if they would have had a successful public equities launch. And so you're talking about an operating company that he describes himself as dying. And so he's just borrowing to shit this thing that's kind of, he calls just dead. And he's just using that situation to over leverage. So he has absolute control, and he has a dead operating company that he's able to uniquely just over leverage. Now compare that to other businesses like a Meta, where you have a very successful operating company that shareholders don't want you to mess with. When Saylor said, hey, I'm thinking about, before we just all go out of business and everything you have to do with MicroStrategy is going to zero, I'm going to take this long shot on Bitcoin. Cool. If Mark Zuckerberg was like, hey, I'm going to leverage and take a long shot, everyone would be like, whoa, we make $40 billion of cash a year. Slow down. So it's just unique. Right? And so the question may be rephrased why haven't every dead, dying company in the US? Well, they kind of are, right? Isn't there now 4? What is that, 300% year-over-year growth? I don't know, right? So I think it's unique in that way. Do I think that Meta should be buying Bitcoin and Google and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. There's also things like accounting changes in America that needed to be made. There's lots of stuff. So I think sometimes that context gets a little lost. Saylor was either going to die or do this. So why doesn't Apple do it? Well, they're not dying. So they're not eagerly looking to borrow so much money where it's life or death. The other thing that I think is interesting is just, if someone were to say, hey, 2008 global financial crisis, well, guess what? Don't worry, because there's going to be a distributed, fair, the best money of all time. It's going to be the best performing thing ever. All you have to do is just own it. You literally don't have to do shit, but own it. You're going to get 63% year over year. You get to hold it in your bedroom. And it's going to be $1 trillion asset class, and up. Someone would say, wow, when? 20 years, 40 years? You go, no, 10 years. You'd be like, wow, that's fast, right? So I think if corporations adopt it in the next year, 2, 3, 4 years, we'll look back and be like, wow, that was fast. And so I think sometimes Bitcoiners get a little too, just zoom out a little bit. You can look at it pessimistically and be like, wow, Saylor figured out something. Why didn't everyone else figure it out yet? Or you can be like, wow, corporate balance sheets forever have been cash-denominated instruments like treasuries. And then, man, it took 5 years for all those assets to be dead capital. Jesus, it took me 5 years to learn how to read when I was a kid. So, I don't know, fast or slow, it's kind of...
I guess sometimes we forget that it's that Bitcoin still is in early stage, and we have a lot of fear of missing out.
Yeah, you're in the middle. I mean, money is a thing that everyone in the world has to use. And so, if you're living through a monetary revolution, one, it's a revolution, but relative to other revolutions, it's arguably the biggest form of revolution ever. Again, money is, in theory, a reflection of us and who we are. So we're all in the middle of arguably one of the greater human revolutions ever. And so I think sometimes that context gets lost of if we are to say a monetary revolution, which has the gravity and the weight of potentially being the biggest in human history, took us 15 years to get to $1 trillion market cap and upend global financial systems. That's pretty fast.
I think it's also a cultural problem, because I would like to know how many German companies really do have Bitcoin on their balance sheet already. I think it's more than we know, and they don't talk about it. This was our case in our company. It took the founder a year to come out and speak in public, because he didn't know how are the customers going to react, how are his employees going to act, and I think it's been really, really positive, and we need more of these stories. we notice the companies that come to us, particularly the energy companies, we're dying to say who's coming to us, and we have to sign an NDA because they say don't talk about it. They don't want, they don't want to talk about it. So the more the people start talking about this is what I've done, but this is Germans don't talk about money. It's you don't talk about money.
In my keynote today, I did it was like a timeline history of money. So obviously very high level, but it was barter, gold and commodities, fiat, Bitcoin. And the distance between these things, it's like gold and commodities was 600 BCE. Fiat was 1971. So I grew up, I'm reading my history books, I'm trying to do my homework. I'm like, man, these teachers making me study like 1,000 years of human history. And we're here talking about a decade and being like, what's taking everybody so long? I don't know, like if my kid reads through the history book and is like 10 minutes, or 10 years, you guys upended money, or like upended corporate balance sheets? That's the easiest history chapter I had to study, so I don't know. Anyway.
What is the biggest risks that Bitcoin faces right now, the Bitcoin network, in terms of technology, security, or in terms of geopolitics? Thank you.
Max, do you want to?
I don't think there is a really large risk at the moment. The last Satoshi gets mined in the year 2140, so in my mind it's always, okay, we have a deadline. Until then, we have to do a large transaction volume that we can still pay the miners with the transaction fee that they secure the network. So that would be maybe the only one hard deadline we shouldn't miss, and yeah, we still have a lot of time to do that. So at the moment, I don't see that many really large risks because if countries ban it, there's a lot of arbitrage in other countries, so I don't see it at the moment really large risks.
Jonas, do you want to say something, seeing as he finds you so...
Yeah, I think I don't want to just refer to Jack's speech today because he answered more or less the same question, but I think it was more or less the easiest answer you can get to the question. If governments stop spending too much, if they stop manipulating the currency and just printing more, we wouldn't have a proper need for Bitcoin. So this could slow down the adoption because we would eventually have hard money if there was no inflation. But yeah, they're probably not doing it, so the risk is quite limited.
Yeah, I think that technology, Bitcoin equals technology plus fiat liquidity. That's my fiat liquidity answer. You want to slow down Bitcoin growth? Okay, government should spend less and stop printing currency. Won't drive people to own other money. You'll slow down the growth. Will you kill Bitcoin? No. I don't think anything can kill Bitcoin. There will be blocks every 10 minutes on average forever. But that's the fiat liquidity. The technology piece I think is interesting too. My best friend, my chief of staff, is over there. So that's Dylan, and we flew here together. And he made this comment. He was like, man, I can't believe they aren't innovating on airplanes. Why is a flight from Chicago to Germany still 8.5 hours? Why doesn't it get better every single year? And the answer, I think, is pretty obvious. Because I told him, I was like, you can try the new innovative flight that's 8 hours and not 8.5 hours, but you might die. You want to get on that flight or you want to get on United? And the point is, when you're engineering life or death, don't fuck with it. Don't kill people. And so I think the biggest risk to the technology is ourselves. Is, oh, I want it to be faster. Oh, I want it to be better now because I'm going to die soon. Or I have some self-interest. And that's like sailors' biggest fear as well, is that we kill the technology ourselves because we're trying to try and make an airplane 15 minutes faster to get from US to Europe instead of just making sure everyone gets there safely. So I think technology piece, the biggest risk is ourselves, and if you want to slow down adoption, you can stop printing currency, but I just don't think that's mathematically possible.
I really enjoyed your presentation this afternoon, Jack. Thank you for that. And that leads to my question, actually. I always get the question, like, in a funny way, like, Stefan, how is your Bitcoin thing going, and how are you doing with your Bitcoins? And then that comes to me, and now I want to ask you on how would you actually answer without a presentation of 20 minutes to that?
Of how Bitcoin's going?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
I'd say good. I mean,
That's usually my answer too, yeah.
I would say Bitcoin's average return annually, so average yearly return, is 63% over the last 10 years that it's been my primary financial asset. And so that means that my life has gotten, you know, rounding up half off a year for the last decade. So it's great.
Sounds good. I'm gonna remember that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or is everybody wanting their coffee and cake and drinks? Cool. Oh, there's one question up here.
Hi Jack, you're famous for like also low consumption, always wearing hoodies and stuff. What are you saving your bitcoins for?
Children.
Well, yeah.
How should your children in an ideal world spend your bitcoin, or your grandchildren or great-grandchildren that you probably not will meet in person?
Well, I would love to be a dad. To be clear, I agree with having kids, and that's, you know, the one thing for me that's going to be bigger than Bitcoin is being a father. So it's one of the reasons so I'm looking forward to that. On how I dress to be comfortable, believe it or not. You know, people interpret what I wear as if I'm trying to save money. Sometimes, you know, hoodies aren't worth the sats for sure, but I dress because I don't like wearing ties and stuff. It just is uncomfortable. So I don't know. And then what was it? What are
you saving for? Like in.
Well, listen. I think I'd reverse that question on its head. What would I be spending for? I'm so repetitive with it, but I wake up and I do stuff for the world. We all do. And in return for that, I get sats. And humans make that decision at the margin. Maybe they want dollars, euros, pounds, gold, stock in a company in return for their work. I get sats. And then I get home and I think about what I need. And I do. I eat and stuff, but I don't. So the question is, what do I spend for? What do I want to consume? What's important to me?
No,
I'm
not
not
go
sure.
to waste. Go to the rest
Go
of
to the
humanity.
next, go to the next generation.
Yeah, I think of it as it's forever. Like I say frequently, I think inherently all humans want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and they want to be part of something that will last longer than they will. I think fundamentally that's human connection, and we all have that desire innately, being alive. I think the best example, most common example of that is having kids, is family. That is quite literally being part of something bigger than yourself, finding a partner, having offspring. The number of who you are goes from 1 to 2 to 3. So it's bigger than you, and it lasts longer than you will. That is quite literally surviving your bloodline longer than you yourself. I think Bitcoin is also an example of that. Bitcoin is bigger than me, and it'll last longer than I will. And if I think of my time and energy being able to store that in an abstracted form in sats, like my time and energy will go on. And I will get to spend it and invest it how I want. Sometimes it's a hoodie, and sometimes it's other things, experiences. But instead of saying like, why aren't I spending? Why would I spend? You know, you live in a world where everyone's over-consuming. You're incentivized with fiat. The fiat is better spent today than tomorrow, because it goes down every single day. Like the stuff you'll get for it. You get less groceries tomorrow. You get less energy, gas, travel, family, education, food, everything tomorrow. So you have to spend today. But if you have an asset that goes up 63% year over year, the question is, why do I need this? Why don't I hold it? Is there something that's either going to produce more growth than holding the Bitcoin, or something more valuable than the Bitcoin appreciation to me?
So Bitcoin is to overcome death.
I think Bitcoin in death, I've said this before too, but so it's kind of dark, but I think they're similar in many ways. Like to me, The only reason I value my life is because I know I'm going to die. Time itself is not a scarce asset, but my time is. It's the finite promise that my time isn't infinite is what makes my life valuable. If I wasn't going to die, I'd come do this panel in 1,000 years. I'd go to the gym in 10,000 years. I'd have kids in 100,000 years. I'd eat every single donut and eat the steak later. Who cares? I'm going to live forever. I have an infinite amount of time. It's the fact that I don't that makes me take care of myself, travel, see you guys, have family, right? And so it's the finite promise of death is what makes life valuable. If there's infinite amounts of dollars or euros or pounds, how can you ever value the paycheck in the time and energy you're producing now? It's the finite promise of an actual fixed money that allows you to value time and energy and labor and effort today and make these decisions at the margins. Like, do I actually need Oktoberfest, bottle service, alcohol, strippers, club, Instagram, or not? It's an impossible thing to make if there's infinite amounts of currency, but if there's a finite amount, you can actually weigh that. So I think they're similar in that way. They're finite promises. Like the only two things in the world that you can't increase the supply of for yourself despite any amount of demand is time and Bitcoin.
I think that's an absolutely perfect place to stop. Basti, Michael, Jack, Daniel, Max, Jonas, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your service to Bitcoin. Thank you to the audience.
Thank you, Rachel.